Serious parents who regret having kids. Why? I love my kids, but I should have waited and had them with a better person. Yep, my son turns 5 this year, and I have raised him alone since he was 6 months old because she decided drugs were more important. She left him with me while he had a 101 fever to go party and smoke crack. And that weekend, when I found out, she just grabbed some of her stuff and left. Did not say goodbye to either of us. I have not heard from her since, and I could not find her if I wanted to. I have tried. Her family says she is still out there, but does not want to talk to us. She got me fired from my job because of that, and I'm still not back to where I used to be. I do not regret him in the slightest. He is the light of my life and my best friend. I regret her. Hopefully everything goes well. Also, if you can get full custody of your son as soon as possible, for your many future reasons. Stay strong for your son. You re his rock. I filed for custody the weekend after she left, but since I'm in Texas, it took around 8 months of her not showing up to summons for the judge to begrudgingly give it to me. Tons of money too. Thank you for your support. He is the only reason I'm still kicking. We adopted a 4-year-old who turned out to have severe issues. While I don't regret rescuing her from what could have been a bad life, the first 20 years were rough, especially the first 7 years. Her overwhelming needs blew up my marriage and left my slightly older son saying, "I want my childhood back." She is a lovely 28-year-old, and I love her, but man, those years were rough. My mom regretted having me and was open about it when I was growing up. It was because my dad was abusive to her. They also had too many kids, way more than most families. Money was always tight. We always had to worry about where our next meal was coming from, and she was constantly shielding us from our dad. It was just a lot of pressure on her. She was honestly trapped. Growing up, I really was taking care of her and the other kids, not really getting much support myself. It made me decide to never have kids. I really struggled with self-esteem problems because I was left without and hyper aware of what a burden I was on others. I left home the second I could and didn't talk to my folks for years. In my late 20s, my mom asked to meet up with me, and she apologized to me for everything that happened. Shortly after I escaped, she finally divorced my dad, and she started her life over. We managed to rebuild our relationship, but I don't think of her as a mom, more like the way other people would think of a sibling or something. But I don't share that with most people because they would not get it. I still love her, but I don't see her as a source of parental support. I had to learn to give that to myself at a very young age. I respect that she regretted having us, but I'm still glad that I'm alive despite everything. I do not think I was ready at the time for kids. I was still figuring out how to be an adult and a husband. So my kids' formative years, I was not a very good father to them. I was never abusive or mean, but I was very career driven and spent almost all my time working instead of playing with my kids who desperately wanted my attention. Start spending time with them now. I have dated too many men with daddy issues. They were all raised upper class and went to private school and had trust funds, but they were so angry their dads never spent time with them. They all abused drugs and or alcohol, and most of them went after underage girls or abused the ones they had. I didn't get to make the choice for myself due to my age and state law. My mom wouldn't consent to an abortion after I was assaulted. I love my son dearly, but I never asked for this, and I never wanted kids to begin with. I haven't gone to college. I have severe depression, no friends or support system to lean on, and I am ducking broke. It has ruined my life, and I am only in my early 20s. Since I am getting shit on eater, I have not once told my child any of this, nor will he ever know from my actions or words. I had to give up academic scholarships and am further behind in life than many people my age. But that is not his fault whatsoever. He is such a brilliant little guy, and despite how difficult it is, I keep it together for him and do the best I'm capable of with the limited resources I have available where I live. No, your tax dollars don't go to another teenage dropout. I graduated. I am not even on state aid. I work. The pandemic is rough on everyone. It's not a surprise a single mother would be struggling financially right now. Yes, my life I had planned was ruined by this, but it doesn't mean I cannot create a new amazing life. No. Your tax dollars don't go to another teenage dropout. I graduated. I am not even on state aid. I work. I just want you and other folks reading this to know that even if you do reach out for aid, TANF, SNAP, Medicaid, whatever, you are worth it. It does not make you any less of a person to receive help. I would go further and say please reach out for state aid. You are exactly the kind of person I want my aid dollars to go to. Please request money. You will get it, and you deserve it. You did not have a choice about having the kid, but you have a choice to collect aid. People who do not want it, but truly need it for a stage of life, almost always end up paying more into the system by the end of their career than they ever took. This is what it is here for. We all need a leg up sometimes, and not everyone is privileged enough to know people with available resources. Loss of freedom is sometimes hard for me. Inability to sleep in or just do what I want. Especially feel this feeling has been exasperated with COVID. No playdates etc. allowed where I am. No babysitters etc. I don't regret having kids most of the time, but sometimes I feel pretty worn out and reminisce about simpler times. It's a big sacrifice and something hard to even put into perspective until you do it. I was 30 plus and thought about it a lot before making the jump, and it was still surprising how hard it is. I think the pro is just that it's such a wonder in a similar way that it's hard to really explain until you do it. I liken it to a vacation where you roughing it somewhere new. You always tired, money is tight, shared accommodations, but also so many amazing new experiences. If you've ever spent several months backpacking in hostels, you probably have a lot of amazing memories, but also that feeling of exhaustion and longing for a home to yourself and a week of good sleep. It's the best comparison to me. I agree with all of this. I was ready for it. Stable enough. All of that. But COVID has taken away all those little breaks I may have gotten. No library playgroups. Cannot just let them join the herd of kids at the park. No family close by and nobody is flying in to visit. Some days worn out is the only way to describe it. The plus side is that our child has gotten a lot of one-on-one time with us, and I think her educational development is better for it. This is of course offset by the lack of socialization. So hopefully we are not raising a generation of weirdos who do not know how to play with others. To be clear, I do not regret it at all. I just agreed with a lot of your comment. Because no one prepares you for those situations that are not perfect special needs children, mentally ill children. We romanticize families way too much and downplay the difficulties and emotional pain that come with them. And no one talks about this before you have them. I was totally unprepared even though I was married and stable with a college degree. Yeah, you might get great kids that do really well, and you might not. I did not have the temperament to be a good parent and should have been encouraged to explore that before I had them. This is one of the reasons I did not have kids. I found myself thinking that I did do it if I could be guaranteed that my kid would be like this and not like that, etc. And then thought how stupid I was being. There are no guarantees, and if I was not prepared to handle that, it was best not to go there. My son is going down a path that is scary as his father. I do not regret having him or raising him, but he will likely break my heart in the near future. He has hit puberty, and along with it, he has flipped chairs and tables at school, refused to do schoolwork, turning in blank tests, cussing out the teacher, and is invading girls' space purposefully. He does not understand girls have autonomy and will refuse no as an answer. She let him hug her. Yes, son. That is her choice. He is going to be on exercise in the near future despite my trying to teach him rights of others. It is like he does not think of people as people, but characters in a game he plays. He is the epitome of I'm not sorry I did wrong, but I'm sorry I'm being punished. He has taken his younger family members alone and clobbered them repeatedly for doing what he did not want. Not hard, but sustained strikes while holding them down, saying number bad between each thud. I love my son because he is my son. I will continue to try to raise him till he is out of the house, but he is dislikable, objectively, and blames the world instead of attempting to change himself. If I had the choice now, I would undo it. He is a risk to himself, but objectively, is a risk to others, and may permanently damage someone else's life and get thrown in juvie if he continues his disturbing behavior. He recently also has refused to cooperate with counseling. His counselor has stated she cannot assist him. This is the third counselor to do so. We are very lost and are considering alternative school to compensate, but we are grasping at straws. Someone in my circle had a kid like that, and they found out after a few years of homeless adulthood that he had a pituitary tumor. After some surgical intervention and state help, he is now a decent, if socially delayed young man. From what I hear, I am not saying that's what this is, but if you keep hitting the same walls, maybe try some completely different angles. Keep at it. Find what motivates him and use that. If he can learn empathy, find someone who can teach him how to fake it and why. I regret not being more stable established for my first child, and she had to go through a lot with me in her short life. A lot of moving and having to be a little more self-sufficient than other kids her age, single mom for a while working 3+ jobs. It has made us extremely close and we have an amazing relationship, but I regret her having to experience it. She has always been well taken care of and never has gone without, but yeah, I love her and wish I could have done better for us from the get-go. My brothers and I were not created out of love. We were supposed to supposed to get married, have kids, buy a house. One of my brothers has caused 40+ years of pain for my parents, and I know they regretted having him. My other brother and I are pretty decent, but you know what? We also caused them years of pain just by being normal people, crashing our cars, pregnancies, needing money, failing college classes, bad marriages. It's no coincidence that none of the 3 brothers ever had kids. Seems like people having a bad childhood family experience either do not ever want children or want to do the best family they can. That is a common issue, parents thinking a child will be independent around 20 years and everything will be fine, and they will pay for your retirement etc. In fact, a lot of people will need to come back to parents' house, and that is totally okay due to current state of society. I hope you are better now. I had an amazing childhood, and I don't want kids. My parents had only been married once, and no stepchildren or anything like that. We were poor to begin with, but we made it through without too much trouble. My parents are intelligent, caring, respectful, and nurturing. I don't want kids because I don't think I could be half the parent they were to me, and that isn't fair to any children I would raise. I just don't think I'm father material, even though I don't do drugs or drink or anything like that. It just doesn't feel like the right thing to do. Because I didn't take my mental health issues into account. I was hyper focused on having kids will be the one thing in this world that will make me happy. So when my now ex-husband was finally ready, I had 3 in 3 years thinking I'd be finally happy. Oh boy, was I wrong. They are now 5, 4, 3 and the noise and tantrums and fighting gets me down by 7 AM every day, and I am just an angry person. I used to just be unhappy. Now I am borderline homicidal lol. My 5-year-old is amazing, but the other 2 are heck on wheels, and I regret having them nearly every day. I despise the word mum, and some days I long to never hear it again. I don't regret having my son, but sometimes I miss my life before I had him. I miss the ability to just do whatever I want whenever I want. Now I have to do it based on his schedule. I know one day it won't be as hard, but right now I miss my freedom. One friend of mine regrets having a child because she lost her entire life from it. No more college. Always broke. Stuck with the father who she hates more often than not. She says she should have waited. She should have had her kid with someone else. She just wishes she did things different. It's strange with these cases, because none of this means she doesn't love her kid, but at the same time, if she could go back and change the past, she would. Because they deserve more than I can give them. Financially, emotionally, and mentally I'm just not equipped to have children. Most days, my kids are more functional than I am. My kids are 21, 14 and 11. I have been a single parent for most of their lives. I love them, and they are my motivation to better myself. But it is hard when you live in the USA and have to choose between rent, food and buying medication. Eater, I'm doing much better now than I had been. My current partner is very supportive and has become more of a father to my younger kids than their fathers ever were. We are working together to get me well. I caved when my wife got baby fever entirely too soon after our first. My oldest son had just been diagnosed with autism and I just kind of thought that everyone with very young children were miserable until they were 4 or 5 years old. I repeatedly told her that, not at all ready to have another child, but gave in. We were not doing well financially or personally, but I just wanted to make her happy. She asked for a divorce soon after our youngest turned 1. It is becoming more and more obvious just how self-centered and selfish my ex-wife has always been. I'm trying not to be bitter, but I hate a lot of being a single dad of 2 young children without any help. I eat what I did like to say often, because I realize it would not be productive. I grew up with parents who had a terrible divorce and I'm trying to make sure my kids do not live the same fate. I'm lonely and terribly depressed. It feels like my life consists entirely of working and being a dad. It feels like no one will ever love me again and everything about dating sucks. I do not blame my children. I love them more than they might ever know. My life would be infinitely easier without kids, but I hope they will never know how I feel. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing for more videos.